Welcome everybody to Reform Gangster Live on Sunday at 1 o'clock. I've been coming to you pretty much every Sunday. And if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Also, check out my Patreon. I got a lot of content on there. I just put a new video up of with a detective, Vince Ferrari. He's an author. He wrote a couple of books. He was an NYPD officer for like 30 years in New York. He dealt with organized crime. He dealt with a lot of issues. Vic Ferrari, his name is, and he dealt with a lot of issues. And it's a really, really great video. It's up now, so if you want to check it out, it's on Patreon. So if you're a member, check it out. If you're not a member, you could pay $1 and check it out and see if you want to continue on as a member. So that's available right now. Also, there's a form on my website for my book that you could fill out, and the first 100 copies will be numbered and signed. Also, I have a sponsor named Pen Tester. It's a cybersecurity company, and they do really great work. So if you need any cybersecurity, please check them out. And we're also looking for additional sponsors. So if you have a business and you want to reach hundreds of thousands of views, because I've been getting a lot, I get a lot of views. Like if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see like I put up a video 4 days ago. It got 8,000 views or 10,000 views, but combined all the videos for the month do really, really well. And it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. So if you want to advertise on my YouTube channel, please contact us at anthonyruggianojr.com, and we'll speak to you about it and try to make some arrangements, because like Pen Test has been with us from day one. Like I said, they're a really good company. So, check them out. If you need cybersecurity, so I have a topic for today, but before I get to that topic, there's just two things that I want to touch on. So a couple of weeks ago, someone asked me, I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery since 1988, but I'm clean and sober since January 12th of 1989. The first year I got out of treatment, I relapsed 3 times, and until I got it, and I've been clean ever since. I've been clean coming up on 38 years. God willing, in January 12th be 38 years. And I believe in total abstinence. Recovery is about total abstinence from all drugs, including alcohol, because that's a drug, and it leads a lot of people back to their drug of choice because they think, oh, I can only have a couple of drinks. I know guys that relapse. They had 5 years, 6 years clean, and they thought they could put a little sambuca in their espresso. Oh, it's only a little sambuca in my espresso, and they went out the door and started smoking crack and shooting dope again, and God only knows what happened to them. So my belief is total abstinence. So I made a comment about Suboxone and about California sober. Okay, and the reason why I made that comment, to me, my personal opinion is you're not clean. And yes, so the comments are, well, isn't it better to take Suboxone than be using heroin? Is it? It's still, you're addicted to Suboxone. It's a minor move. It's a drug. It's a narcotic. It's an addiction. You're still addicted to something. And listen, I worked in a detox for over 3 years, and I saw people come in to detox from Suboxone, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Just like detoxing from heroin or any opiates, it's not pretty. I saw it for 3 years, people detoxing from Suboxone. So, if you want to believe that, well, if I'm not shooting heroin or I'm not sniffing heroin, I'm just taking Suboxone, and that's okay. That's okay. That's on you. If you believe it, go with it. If it's helping you and you can live with it, go with it. But to me, it's just another addiction, and I believe in total abstinence. That's just my opinion. Some people agree with it. Some people don't. I know in the rooms of in 12-step programs, I know they believe in total abstinence. That's where I got that from, because I'm a member of a 12-step program, and we believe in total abstinence from all drugs in order to recover. So that's my belief. But if you don't believe that, that's fine. But I know that Suboxone is just another addiction. It's just, to me, and I saw people detox from it, and it's not pretty. As far as this California sober thing is, listen, weed, marijuana is a minor mood altering chemical. You know what I mean? If you could smoke weed, God bless you. Because I know I work in recovery. I mean, I work in treatment, and I talk to clients 5 days a week. And what I hear over and over again is, well, I'm not doing my drug of choice. I'm only smoking weed. I'm only having a drink. I'm only doing this. I'm not doing my drug of choice. But you know what? Why take a chance of leading back to your drug of choice? What California sober to me is I don't even know how to explain it. It's just I don't. It's comical. It's comical to me. It's comical. So so um, that's my opinion on that. Let me know what you think about that. You know what I mean? I want to thank Bill for his donation. I just got a donation from Bill. Thank you very much. Good day to you too. The second thing I want to mention is and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to start any controversy or get into any beefs with anybody that's on YouTube, because I'm not. That's neither here nor there. But there's a lot of stuff going on YouTube, people beefing with each other, and I try to stay out of the fray, even though sometimes I get thrown into it. I don't know why, but but what I've been hearing is by other channels, because there's YouTube platforms that are arguing with each other. Who has the biggest house? Who's the toughest guy? Who has the most money? Who has the nicest car? And all this stuff. You know what I mean? And me, I don't have a house. I rent a condo. I don't have a drawer full of money. I go to work. Today at 3:30, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive to a treatment center in Pompano Beach. It's 92 degrees out and 80% humidity, and I'm going to go to work and sweat my balls off for 8 hours, because I have to be outside with clients, entertaining them, talking to them, keeping track of them, and that's what I do. You know what I mean? But people on YouTube are saying they. And I'm not part of the they. Okay. I'm not part of the day. I don't disrespect nobody. I don't argue with nobody. I don't talk about anybody. I'm not part of the they. I'm me. Do I have credentials to talk about the mob? Yeah, I have credentials, and I'm going to give you a little brief synopsis of my credentials. I've been committing crime since I was 16 years old. The first time my name was in the newspaper, I was 23 years old. I got locked up on Mulberry Street in the number office. I was in the newspaper. I was 23. In the early 70s, when a lot of these YouTubers weren't even born yet, or if they were born, they were holding on to their mother's curtains, her little skirt, mommy, because they were little kids. So, and, throughout life, 14 years in prison, RICO convictions, and on and on and on. So I got credentials, and I could speak on the mob. I feel like good. I was born into it. I was born the same year my father became a made member. I grew up around wise guys my whole life. And so that I think that qualifies me to speak about the mob, but I'm not part of the thing. And I know maybe somebody out there might get upset about that and make a comment about me, but that's okay. Because people that make comments about me, it's always the same comment. He was a junkie and he never got straightened out. And, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. But it's all good. I just want to make it a point to say that I'm not part of the they. I don't need to impress anybody. I'm not here to impress anybody. And I truly do help people. I help people on a daily basis. I've been doing that for a long, long time now. I lived in Florida for years before anybody even knew who I was. Nobody even knew who I was until I decided to start doing this. And then people found out who I was. And I'm going to get to that too at the end of my topic. So after I got that off my chest, today's topic I want to talk about. So I've been hearing a lot, even on YouTube. I've been hearing a lot about it. And I've been getting a lot of messages about what do I think of the American Mafia today, especially what do I think about what's going on in New York today, what's going on in Philadelphia today. And listen, it's a different world out there, and I hear it all the time. It is a different. I hear it all the time on other channels, and they're right. They're right. It's not like it was. It's nothing anymore. And there's not even where's the like the minor leagues? Like where are they getting kids from? Look what happened in Penn State. I mean, here's guys committing crimes and they Venmoing each other thousands of dollars. They cash out people thousands of dollars. Like this is the state of the criminal enterprises today. This is the state of what's going on today. I hear about who's getting straightened out in New York, and it's all these kids ain't even criminals. It's I don't know. It's just not what it was. It's never going to be what it was. I mean, people say, "Aren't you scared? Aren't you scared?" Listen. Are there people out there that want to kill me? Without a doubt. Listen, once you cooperate, you automatically got a contract out on you. That's the rules of the mob. You cooperate, you die. But I don't think it's going to happen because first of all, who are they going to send? Who are they going to send? Who are they going to trust? There's a million confidential informants out there getting money from the government. They don't know who's standing next to them. There's cameras all over the place. Cameras in doorknobs, cameras in doorbells, cameras in cars, cameras all in the street. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. I walk out my door, there's cameras all over my compound. I go to work, there's cameras all over the building. I mean, and really, who are they going to send? And what kind of crimes do they commit today outside of selling drugs? I mean, the basic crimes are always going to be there. Bookmaking, because not everybody wants to download an app, because not everybody has checking accounts, and not everybody wants to pay tax. So there's always going to be illegal bookmaking. There's always going to be Shylock, and people are always going to need to borrow money. So there's always going to be Shylocking, pushing up on anybody, shaking down businesses. People, if they go to shake down a business, the guy that owns the business should laugh at them and say, get that, and chase them. I mean, the Albanians are pushing the Italians out of everywhere. The Russians are pushing everybody out of everywhere. That never went on in my day. Never went on in my day, but that's what's going on now. Even just Joey Molina, I don't have sources, but I hear things. I hear things from reputable people. I talk to people out there now and then. And, what I'm hearing is that he's the boss again. And it's okay that he's on YouTube. And I heard the only crew, the only family that thought it's not recognized him is the Gambino family, that all the other families are okay with it now. And I think, and I've been thinking about it, and maybe they are because he, talks about rats and rats and rats and maybe they think that's going to discredit the next person that's going to cooperate or whatever they're thinking. But I heard that's going on right now, that he's the boss again, that they shelved Georgie Borghese. I mean, it's all over town. If it's true, I have to believe it's true. I may be wrong, but I happen to believe it's true because they have nobody out there. It's just totally different, and that's one of the reasons why I cooperated. You know what I mean? Before I went away in '96, it was still reputable. When I went away and my father died, I saw them for what they really were: greedy, self-centered people. And I was one of them. I was a greedy, self-centered person. I was a bad guy, and I'll say it over and over again. I was a bad guy. We were bad guys. We were not good guys. We were the bad guys, and I saw what they were really about when I went away. And especially when I got out in '04 and I got locked up for murder, then I really saw what they were really about, and I think that's when the tide started turning, what it is today. Like when I think of it today, and I hear about these people that straightening out, who's straightening out their sons and this, like these kids ain't even criminals. I mean, I was a criminal. I was working in dice games and blackjack games when I was 16 years old, selling swag, doing everything, hijack goods. I mean, I did everything. We did it all back then. I don't know what they're doing today, so, and then I saw them for what they really were. And, I decided to cooperate, and it was a really, 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 really hard, tough decision. You know what I mean? It was a really tough decision. Colin, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Thank you for the work you do, Mr. Ruggiano. God bless you. God is great. But hey, you're a, you're a, I see you put a little thing in there. All right, me too. Um, so anyway, yeah, then when I decided to cooperate, it was a rough decision, but I made it, and and I got out, and I got out, and the witness protection program, cooperating. I think that contributed to the downfall of the mob too, because people, had the option to go into the witness protection program. And there's guys, and I'm not saying this now to irritate anybody, to start any trouble, to start any conflict. Your belief, people's beliefs are their belief, and my belief is my belief. So what I say, I don't say to start controversy, but there's people out there that think people that go into the witness protection program are all punks, and this is by other people that cooperated, that all punks and this and that. My belief is that once you decide to cooperate, you canceled your gangster card. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you went into the program, if you don't go into the program, because you don't go into the program, you're tougher than another guy. I don't believe. I went into the program. I had to deal with the feds. I had to deal with the feds that I was going to go into the program to get new paperwork, a new identity, because I had no credit. I had nothing. My real name Ruggiano was, I owed, was gone. I needed a fresh start to have a new life. Because I didn't leave. I didn't have a lot of money. I don't have a drawer with $100,000 in it. I have socks in my drawer. You know what I mean? I didn't leave with any money. I left with nothing. I left New York with no money. No money. I left New York with no money. So I needed to go into the program to get, so my deal was I was going to go into the program and I was going to get my new identity, get all kinds of credentials, and then sign out. And that's what I did. I stood in the witness protection program for a year, and I signed out, and with all new identification and a new start. So that's what I did. I know I'm talking a little fast. There's a lot of, I might have not explained myself properly, but I hope everybody got what I'm saying. It is what it is. Let's get to some questions. This is from TPM. The best thing, Anthony, did you get out of New York? The odds of relapse go up. Yep. This is from QUEEG. Much respect from the Gun Barrel City, Texas. Anthony, did your dad allow you to have pets when you were a kid? Yeah, I had a dog. We had a couple of dogs. We had. Yeah, we had a couple of dogs. Just from Saucy Jack, did you think that Joe Molina doesn't really go after you or Mikey Scars because both of you don't really engage in online drama? Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I know Joe Molina. I met Joe Molina. I had dinner with Joe Molina. He used to call my house, and he knows that I have tapes with his voice on them. I don't get to have them in my position property yet, but they're on their way. Because my phone was tapped in New York. Uh, and yeah, I think what's going on, I don't really want to comment on what's going on YouTube because I don't want to get involved in it. And if I comment on it, then people are going to involve me, and I don't really want to get involved in it. But yeah, that's probably a good explanation of why he doesn't really talk about me and Mikey's cars. And I really don't care if he talked about me. I don't really care if anybody talks about me. I know who I am. I know what I did. I know where I'm going. You know what I mean? So, and it is what it is. This is from Saucy Jack. The recent Chicago arrest, they were discussing illegal stuff via text message. Exactly. That's what I said earlier. It's like, what's going on out there? These kids today are all on Instagram. They got smartphones. There's kids, not that these kids in Penn State were mobbed up, but I have a funny feeling that the drugs they were getting was mobbed up because they were getting cocaine from New York and Philadelphia. And I believe somewhere along the line, a mob guy had his hands in that. You know what I mean? Because it was New York and Philly they were getting coke out of, and they were Venmoing each other money, and that's the So what I'm trying to say is maybe these kids weren't in the mob in Penn State, but this is their generation. Their generation are the kids, the Italian kids, unfortunately, that are getting straightened out today. So, and that's their mentality. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, you know, texting, nobody talks to, everybody's texting, even my daughter. I tell my daughter, call up so-and-so, see if they want to go to the movie tonight, and they're texting. Just call and say, you want to go to the movie tonight? Everybody's texting. Colin, thanks again for the donation again. Thank you. I'm Saucy Jack. John Panisi said on a video that the Colombos have a rat amongst them. The Lucchese guy who tried to warn them about it was told to mind his own business. Listen, every crew out there has rats. Every family out there has confidential informants, and they're made guys, captains, soldiers, associates. Listen to me. When I cooperated in 2006 and I profited, the feds knew everything. Everything. That's why when people say, they're full of shit, they accuse us guys that cooperated, like, me and Dominic and my cousin Gene and Mikey Scars and all this. When people say we're lying, we're not lying, because the feds know everything. And if we lied, we would get life. They know everything, everything. They told me things that I almost fell out of the chair that I forgot. They would ask me questions about what happened with this, and I would go, how the hell did you know that? Like, they know everything. So if they knew everything then, they sure as hell know everything now. This is from Nolan. Do you think the mob has a chance to make a resurgence? No. I think it's only going to get worse. The technology is going to get better. The law, no. I think it's over. I don't think it's ever going to it's never going to get to where it was. It's never going to get to where it was. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, the mob had their hands in everything, down to the selling of Italian bread and the distribution of Christmas trees. I mean, they had their hands in everything. Them days are over. They're over. This is from Tony Perez, Mr. Ruggiano. With all due respect, I've been sober. I smoke weed. It saved my life for my whatever. You have to know there is a lot of medical benefits. All respect. I'm a big fan. Listen, I respect your opinion. You know what I mean? Listen, if you could smoke weed and it works for you, God bless you. Me, I don't, listen, I'm clean coming up on 38 years. Could I smoke a joint? Could I buy a weed pen and be okay and not start blowing my brains out with cocaine? Maybe I could, but am I willing to take that chance? No. Would I like to have a glass of wine with dinner? Fucking damn right I would. My good friend Michael Francis is always wants to send me wine. He's got really good wine, I heard he's selling. But, am I willing to take a chance to have a couple of glasses of wine with dinner, and then I'm going to be down in Miami looking for sniffing the glue bag? But if it works for you, God bless you. I'm happy for you. Smoke a joint for me. This is from Robert. We all live in a yellow submarine. Have you ever known a mobster that got turned on by the target? I don't know what you mean by that. Sorry, I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, someone wants to know the names of my dogs. One was named Buttons because it was a Yorkshire Terrier, and we had a German Shepherd that was named Caesar. And then we had another dog that my father kept in Cafe Liberty. His name was Elvis. We named him after Elvis Presley. This is from Tony Soprano. Did you see the Vlad TV interview with Eddie McDonald, who flipped Henry Hill? I saw parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw parts of it. This is from Tony, Tatone. Listen, you got to forgive me with the names. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. They were giving life sentences to guys that were just following orders in the life. But when the life betrays you and turns their backs, it's every man for themselves. Without a doubt. Listen, Mikey Scars is YouTube channel is No Excuses, because there's no excuses for us to why we cooperated. There's reasons. there's reasons that led me to make the decision I made, and one of the reasons was, yeah, they turned their back on me. Nobody wanted to help me with money. My co-defendant Dominic was coming up with alibis for himself without me telling me I was on my own, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. Bottom line, I mean, let's be real. I was not willing anymore to spend the rest of my life in prison. For what? For them? I wasn't willing to do it. And I wasn't willing to. And it's funny because, and people think that I'm crazy, but I'm going to make a statement now. And some people are going to say, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. He's a rat. A rat is a rat is a rat. But I'm going to tell you something. I did state time in New York State penitentiaries, and I did Fed time. I hated federal prisons. There's no privacy. There's two men in a cell. There's no privacy whatsoever. Unless when your cellmate goes outside and in the day room and watches TV and you're left in the room by yourself for a couple of hours, that's the only time you have a little privacy, or when you're in the shower, and that's it. Otherwise, there's no privacy. You got to watch TV with headphones on. There's no conjugal visits. I was in the state penitentiaries. I was in Attica, Elmira. I had my own cell. I had a TV in my cell. I had 2 hot pots. The commissaries were 10 times better than the feds. I was getting packages from home. And I was on the list to get a conjugal visit where my wife was going to come with my kids for 72 hours and stay in a beautiful trailer. When I got locked up in 2006, and when I decided to cooperate, believe me, knowing that I would have to spend my life in a federal prison versus a state prison really had a bearing on my cooperation, my decision. Because if it was a state case, I might have not have cooperated. And that might sound crazy, and people might say, he's full of shit. No, but it's the truth, because even if I got convicted and I got 25 to life, I would be in a state penitentiary where I would have some comforts, I guess you could say. I have in my own cell. I have a TV in my cell. I would get, my family would come up on the trailer visits. Sally Dogs, who was a captain in the Genovese family, he was with me in Attica. He loved his trailer, but his wife used to smuggle. His wife had a machine that used to vacuum seal food, and he had a guy in a Chinese restaurant, and he would get Chinese food, and his wife would vacuum seal it, and he would get receipts for it, and he would smuggle in Chinese food on the visits, because it had to be medically sealed, everything that you could bring in from the trailer. So even that played a part in my decision about where I would have to do the time if I got convicted. And when I did get arrested for the murder, I really was willing to take a plea immediately. I got arrested, and the next day, my co-defendant's lawyer came to see me, and I told him in the attorney room, I'll take 15 years right now. And he looked at me and go, man, you must like being in prison. I said, no, I don't like being in prison, but this isn't no bullshit bookmaking case. This is forever. These people are looking to put my lights out. But I couldn't, they wouldn't let me take a plea because they were going to throw me under the fucking bus at the end of the day. That's why. So, they weren't willing to take pleas. So it's a whole, it's just a whole big thing. Let's get back to the questions. Let's see. So Mike is asking, a Patreon member, thanks for being a member. Are the 5 families operating the way people think they are? I don't know how people that think they're operating, but I don't know how the hell they're operating. I mean, I know they're straightening guys out. I know a couple of guys I know became captains. I know that Ronnie One-Arm's son, Alphonse, they took him off the shelf. He's a captain again, and they put Rockeforth on them. A couple of guys, Tony Muscatel Jr., who I can't believe got straightened out. They put them on the shelf. So there's moves being made, but I don't know, to them, to them, it means something, but to the rest of the world, it shouldn't mean nothing because it's nothing. Like, are there still bosses? Yeah, of course there's bosses. There's bosses, there's underbosses, there's captains. This is from Dave. Dig your show in Oakland. Thank you. Thank you. Whatever happened to Joe Dogs and Skinny Bobby? Joe Dogs died and Bobby died. Bobby DeSimone, Tommy's brother, they both passed away. They both passed away. They're both gone. This is from MC. Ever have any interactions with Louis Melito? I knew Louis. I didn't have any crimes with him. I had conversation. I saw him out in clubs. I knew him. I didn't know him well, but I did know him. This is from Mr. Puppet. Since it's against the rules to use violence and offing people now, it's hard to get real tough guys, and you're going to get white-collar guys who bring in a lot of money. Yeah, definitely. That's what they're doing, white-collar crimes. Exactly. This is from Kevin. Thanks to you, I'm now off Suboxone, which I've been on for 5 years due to pain pill addiction. I tape it off of them. I have a couple of months, and now I'm completely clean, so thanks, Rouge. God bless you, man. That warms my heart. That really does. That warms my heart. And stay strong one day at a time, man. This is from Holy Smokes. Fat Andy had tremendous respect and clout throughout the families, but why wasn't he made a captain underboss? Were they afraid that he would take over the family? Was Joe? I mean, he was a captain at the end of his life. I told everybody that they did make him a captain, I guess out of respect. But yeah, there was a lot of fear. He used to tell me sometimes you could do too much. He committed a lot of violence for the family. This is from James. Anthony, do you remember Stormy and his brother Long John? Of course I remember Stormy, definitely. This is from Saucy Jack. What are your thoughts on gambling addictions? Is it as bad as drugs? I know several degenerate gamblers. My reformed gangster cup, excuse me. Gambling addiction is just like drug addiction. Addiction is addiction is addiction. Anything that makes your life unmanageable is not good for you, and gambling definitely makes your life unmanageable, without a doubt. This is from Mr. Puppet. Who was a better boss, Junior Gotti or Pete Gotti? Both of them sucked. Neither one of them were good bosses. They were both money-hungry, greedy bastards, both of them. This is from JBWELD. Thanks for the donation. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I thought New York Main Line was a lot more violent. I thought Fed time was quieter. Listen, that's a good question, okay? I was in the worst prison in New York State, which is Attica, the most high security, violent. I never had an argument in there. It's how you carry yourself, who you hang with. There's beefs in Fed joints, especially out on the West Coast where all the Mexican gangs are. That's really crazy out there. On the East Coast, not so much. But it all depends on how you carry yourself. And there's violence in all the prisons. But yes, New York State prisons are more violent because there's gangs. You got all the city gangs, the Kings, the Latin Kings, the Bloods, the Creps, this MS-13 and this gang and that gang. But nobody bothered us in there. We had our own little crew. We used the Latin phones, Latin King phones. I mean, it all depends on how you carry yourself. I did 14 years in prison, and I had a few beefs. Don't get me wrong, but it all depends on what you're doing in there, how you if you're doing drugs, if you're gambling, if you're fucking doing shit you're not supposed to be doing. It all comes down to that. This is from Frank Anthony. If you're not supposed to hold a grudge when you get made, why did John mess with Nikki? He didn't really mess with Nikki. He wanted to see where Nikki's head was. You know what I mean? He wanted to just see if Nikki would show up, and Nikki showed up, and it paid off. He wasn't really messing with him. He was just trying to test him to see where he was at. This is from Colin. I grew up in Northern Ireland in the 70s. All right. Catholic community. The streets were schooled. Not many stepped out of line. New York City has lost that influence. Mandani is a disaster. Listen, I don't want to get into politics, but you're 100% right. I was just in New York, and what's happening in New York is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. My neighborhood, Ozone Park, is gone. It's gone. Gone. Howard Beach is holding out. Howard Beach, I was in Howard Beach. It's holding out because, yeah, I go anywhere. We'll make that statement too. Not that I'm walking up and down. I'm not looking to have fist fights in the street, but yeah, my neighbor's shot. I'm in Manhattan. Everywhere you go, people are smoking weed. They're selling. There's a million pot shops now all over the place. Um, it's a mess. Ruggiano, did you ever burglarize a department store like Alexander's, Macy's, A&S, or Bloomingdale's? No, I never did. No, I never did. Does cooperating with the government automatically mean you go into the witness protection? No, that's your choice. No, the feds will always want you to, but you don't. Like, I know people that didn't go. There's people on YouTube that didn't go into the witness. I don't think Mikey Scars went into the witness protection program. I know Dominic didn't go into the witness protection program I know Michael Francis didn't go into the witness protection program. I did. I went in. It's just a choice. It's just a choice you make. Um, who decides who qualifies for the witness protection program on the government side? Well, how it worked with me was I was in Michigan. I left New York and I bounced around until I landed in Michigan. And then what happened was the case agent, Jerry Conrad, he flew to Detroit. And he had an appointment with the United States Marshals because they run the witness protection program. The Marshals run the whole show. They're in charge. And we went to Detroit, him and we met with Marshals, and they interviewed me and they interviewed Jerry. And of course, I was accepted into the program. And then 2 days later, I met that marshal that I met in Detroit, and he took me to the airport and they flew me out. They flew me to DC. And when I got off the plane in DC, there was marshals waiting for me in DC, and they took me to a secured location. And at that location, I got a social security card and a new name. And then they flew me from that location to Spokane, Washington. And then they drove me into Idaho. I was living in Idaho. That was a blast. And when I was in Idaho, they took me to motor vehicles and got me a driver's license and a car, a Jeep Cherokee. They paid $15,000 cash for it. That's where your taxpayer money goes, and so on and so forth. And that's how it all went around. But it's a personal choice. I didn't have to go into the witness protection program, but we decided that way before I actually went into it, because like I said, I wanted to start over and I needed a new identification because I left New York with nothing, with the clothes on my back. This is from VM Burrow. Did your dad know Tony Darrow played Larry? No, my father didn't know none of them. My father didn't know any of them from The Sopranos. Bill Mitchell. The lawyer you said you most like prison wanted you to fight the charges so he could make more fees. Friends of mine ended up having liens on their houses from lawyer fees. Um, well, not to mention the lawyer's name. He's still out there, but he was a personal friend of ours. I knew him since he was born. His father was a personal friend of mine and my father's. So it was more of a personal conversation. It really had nothing to do with money. But yes, for other people, without a doubt, they want to make more money. The longer the trial goes on, the more fees they get, of course. But my personal situation was a little different. There was really no money involved. He was just more or less trying to throw me under the bus. This is from Marie, a Patreon member. Thank you for being a member, Marie. I appreciate it. How was it mentally to leave your identity behind and assume a whole different? That's a great question. It was rough. It was rough. It was rough. It was being displaced. It was rough, especially when I was out west, like in Idaho, and you're at parties, because like I said, I'm in a 12-step program. So wherever I went to meetings and I made friends instantly. When I was in Idaho, there was no NA meetings. I'm an NA guy, but there was no NA meetings. So I used to go to this AA clubhouse every day at 5:30. They made a lot of good friends, and I would go to their houses to barbecues and everything. And it was like Anthony was up here looking down at whatever, my name was. I don't want to say what it was, but that's how it was. And I felt displaced and I couldn't really talk. Like I would hear a song by David Bowie and I couldn't tell the person that, oh, I met David Bowie. Like I hung out with David Bowie, or such, or, things like that. It was just, at one point when I came to Florida, it was really messing with me. And I actually needed to tell somebody who I was, and I found a therapist. And the first therapist I went to, when I told her the situation, she went, uh, "I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get any subpoenas in the future. I'm going to recommend you see another therapist." And then I found another therapist that was okay with it, and she would call me Anthony, and we would talk, and we would talk just from holy smokes. If Fat Andy became underboss under John, would he have told John to put Tony Lee? Oh, he may have. I mean, Tony Lee would have definitely been a captain without a doubt. I mean, listen, as far as that hit on Paul Castellano goes, Fat Andy missed the boat. He was in prison. If he wasn't in prison, he would have been in the middle of all that, just like Tony Lee was in the middle of all that. And he would have definitely got a position from John because John would have known what he had there. You know what I mean? There wasn't many Fat Andys, let me tell you, and there's never going to be a John Gotti, and there's never going to be a Fat Andy again, ever. Oh, here's a question about Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was sober 7 years and says he's drinking again in moderation. What goes through your mind when you hear that? Well, good luck to Brad. The progression of the disease of addiction will probably kick in at some point, and hopefully he's a gazillionaire. So I mean, he's not gonna, what is he gonna, the only thing he's gonna lose is himself, his self-respect, maybe his spirituality, if he has any, his mind, but he's not gonna become homeless or, the guy's got multi-millions of dollars. Not that that's gonna save him, but if he's a true alcoholic, he's got a problem. He's gonna have a problem. Who's the biggest hot-headed mobster you ever encountered in person? Probably Tony Lee. He was hot-headed. He used to scream, throw things. He was hot-headed, Tony Lee. Not violent, just verbally hot, like, ah, 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 ah. We used to play Rumino. We had big Rumino games, and I would be playing Rumino in the back of Cafe Liberty. Ronnie One Arm, and all of us would all be back there playing Ramino, Robert, Little Joe, all of us. And he would come in, and my Uncle Junior, Gene's grandfather, he would be playing with us, and he would come in and want to sit down, and he would sit down at the table, and I would cash out. I would like, all right, and I would like stop playing. And one day he told me, "Why do you do that? Every time I want to play, you stop playing." I said, "Do you?" Because when he lost hands, he would yell and curse. I said, "Do you think I'm going to sit at this table and have you abuse me? You're crazy." So he was kind of hot-headed. Who did your father, Fat Andy, respect the most in the Mafia? Albert Anastasia. That was his idol. He always told me that was his man. That was the toughest guy he ever met. That was the real gangster. But he respected a lot of people. He was a respectful guy. A lot of people respected him. Respect goes both ways. Um, don't forget about my books coming out. There's going to be a lot of stuff like this in it. A lot of stuff like this in it. So, go to AnthonyRuggiano.com and AnthonyRuggiano.com, not Anthony Ruggiano Jr., mine is AnthonyRuggiano.com, and fill out that form. This is from Kevin. Good evening from Kevin in Ramsgate, England. What's up, England? What's up? This is from Anthony. I got a donation. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Hey, Anthony, sending love from Buffalo. What's up, Buffalo? You mentioned that Fat Andy, especially Tony Lee, hated Paul Castellano. Man, we Esquire, especially with Tony Lee. Yes. So, my father ran the sheetrock union for the Gambino family. That was his union. He extorted it. He grabbed it. He got it on record, and he handled it. The president of the union. My father always dealt with the union, with the sheetrock union. When my father went to prison, Paul, was heavy into construction. They had the club and all that. They were big rigging and all that shit. He sent for Tony Lee and wanted to know what was going on with the union. And Tony had no answers for him because Tony Lee was hands off with the union. He just got his end. At the end of the month, my father just split the money with him because they were partners, but he never was involved with the union. He didn't really participate in the running of the union. My father and this guy, Freddie Hott, they dealt with the union. Freddie Hott was my father's guy, and he dealt with the union. So Tony had no knowledge of what was going on, and Paul insulted Tony at the table. He reprimanded Tony Lee. Like, what do you mean you don't know what's going on? Why aren't you and Andy partners? And he got really nasty and abusive with Tony Lee, and he embarrassed Tony Lee, and Tony fucking hated him after that. Hated him with a passion. When his name was mentioned, you didn't want to hear what Tony Lee had to say about it. Tony hated him. I heard Tony Piccolo, who was he? What? I heard he decided to fight his case instead of pleading. And yeah, Tony Piccolo was with us years ago. And then when everybody split up, he was with Joe Carrazza. That was his guy. I did time, I know Tony Piccolo my whole life. He passed away. He did like 28 years and got out and died. The poor bastard. He got a 15-year enhancement for a broken gun. Yeah, he got a raw deal. Tony Piccolo. I did a lot of business with Tony Piccolo with credit cards and stuff. He was a big earner. He was a money machine, Tony Piccolo. But he was with Jojo Carrazza. This is from Mark. Hey, Anthony, the government is in the weed business to dumb down and control the population and make money. Now it's okay. Such BS. Like Fat Andy said, they're the real mafia. It's a disgrace. Of course. Listen, my friends went to jail for selling pot. My brother was a major marijuana dealer. My friends went to prison for dealing weed. I always said my brother was 50 years ahead of his time when it comes to that. This is from V.M. Burrow. Did Andy and Dominic Cataldo ever do any business together? Apparently, Cataldo had some heavy interest in alcohol. They never did business, but they were very good friends. I had a little run-in with Dom Cataldo over a cocaine deal with his brother Tito when Tito was alive, until Dominic set up Tito to be killed, because Tito was the guy that killed Jimmy Burke's son. So we had dealings with Dominic Cataldo, but I don't know if my father ever did anything with him like that, but we knew Dominic Cataldo very well. Who did Fat Andy absolutely not trust? He didn't trust a lot of people. Like I don't really know one person that he really didn't trust, because if he really didn't trust you, you probably got killed. You know what I mean? Like, bottom line, like, so I can't say off the top of my head someone he told me, like, I don't fucking trust him. You know what I mean? But there were people he didn't trust. Vincent, thanks for the donation. I really appreciate it. Did Castellano make his bones? I don't know. That's a good question. Did he ever do any work? I don't think he did. I never heard he did. This is from Arnold. Good afternoon from Texas. When Lucky Luciano passed, it was true. Gambino said that at the eulogy and also, did your father attend Luciano's funeral? You're great YouTuber. Thank you. Look forward to your videos. I don't think my father didn't attend Lucky Luciano's funeral. And I don't know about Carlo Gambino giving the eulogy at Lucky Luciano's funeral. Maybe he did. I know my father went to Carlo Gambino's funeral. I know that. But I don't know about the other funeral. This is from Clay. Anthony, did your dad ever take you deer hunting? No, my father wasn't a hunter or a fisher. Nope. But I did go deer hunting with friends of mine, but never with my father. Saucy Jack, did you have any funny stories about Gene and Hootie when they were kids. Not really, you know. Gene was always a wild kid. You know, he was very close with my son. Very close with my son. They were like two peas in a pod when they were little. Um, but no, Hootie, I really, Hootie was just a kid in the neighborhood. I didn't even, you know what I mean? Like when I went away, they were little kids. So when I came out, they were like running around with wise guys and shit. Hootie was running around with Ronnie One Arm, and Gene was running around with, Vinny Asara and Ronnie G. But I don't really have any funny stories about them. They were just kids in the neighborhood. Hootie was anyway. Gene, of course, was my cousin. Um, is it easy to stay clean if you have money? No, no, no. I know millionaires that couldn't stay clean. I know a millionaire in Michigan. I was actually his sponsor, and he was loaded, and he couldn't stay clean. He's in prison now, actually. So all his money didn't even help. Like he's in prison right now, doing a lot of time for some violent crime. So no, it's from C Note. Anthony, did the dairy mill guys around the corner from your house pay for protection? Not that I know of. They weren't paying Fat Andy, that's for sure. So I really don't know. Joey Bad Good Donuts is asking, what made Neil so respectful? The way he carried himself, his capabilities, his reputation, the crew he had. I mean, look at the crew he had. The crew he had was amazing. I mean, every guy in his crew was dynamite. Fat Andy, Tony Lee, Frankie Martin, Charlie West. I mean, on and on. Then who came into the picture? John Gotti, Angelo Quack, Nicky, Lenny, all like the crew he had was Mike Catalano. I mean, I could go on and on and on. He had like a great crew. It's from Joe. I'm a retired therapist specializing in substance abuse counselor, and I would never turn down anyone that needs help. I never would turn down anyone either. So we're even. I never would turn down anyone either. If you had to pull off a job, who is your wingman all day long? Back then, oh, one of my friends, Little Joe, maybe Sal, probably one of them two guys. This is from Viking. Happy Sunday, OG. Thank you. You know why you're great? No BS drama, just good stories which us grown men appreciate. Thank you very much. Here's another donation from JB. Thank you for the donation. Do you or your dad hang around Big Pete? Was he a dangerous as he was big? My old man knew him, knew all of them, that whole crew. I really didn't know him. I never hung around with him, but definitely Fat Andy and Tony Lee did, not me. Waiting for more stuff to come. Don't forget, check out the Patreon. I got Vic Ferrari, um, the videos on there, retired NYPD officer. Um, And this Tuesday at 7:30 for the Patreon members, I'm going to reveal the title of my book that's going to be coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're not a Patreon member, please check out my Patreon page. Memberships start at $1. Um, so, check that out. And there's a lot of stuff coming your way. I'm just waiting to see if any more questions are coming. Let's see what's happening. Um, Let's see, I got one coming in. Nope. All right. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate listen, I really appreciate it. Like I'm not as big as other YouTube channels. Um, I'm happy with what I got. I got my Patreon members. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your patriotism, for your participation. And if you're not a Patreon member, please check out my Patreon page. And if you can't afford that, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee to help me enhance my network, um, The link is in the description, so you could buy me a cup of coffee. We could have a 20-minute Zoom call if you like. The book, I'm going to reveal the title of the book Tuesday 7:30 on Patreon Live. So please tune in. If you're not a member, please become a member. There's a form already right now on my website, anthonyruggiano.com. You can fill out, and the first 100 copies will be numbered and signed. Got that coming. I'm planning a trip up to New York. I don't have the exact date yet, but it's going to be sometime in September. So that's more to come with that. And I guess that's it. Football season's around the corner. They're playing preseason right now. I really don't like to talk about preseason. I don't bet preseason, but we'll have some fun during the season. Not that I'm an expert picker, because I'm far from it, believe me, but we'll have some fun with that. And everybody enjoy this.